guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press. And first, it's humid, and thus I have weird curls. This is something I fight all summer long. So if you have comments about that, don't care. Second, if you're here for David, he's not going to be here today. It's just going to be me. So I apologize. Today, I am going to do a pretty standard The Signal episode. I'm going to do some indie news. It's just the sale. I don't have anything else prepped right now. And then a preview of the next written review that's going to be coming up on my website this week. And then we're going to dive into a discussion topic. And this one is going to be in a kind of two parts. The first part is going to be indie alternatives to the Kaiju Preservation Society, which won an award, and people have been reaming on Twitter. And then the second half is going to be talking about how people have treated that on Twitter, and particularly from indie authors, the criticism that has faced, and why I think that we need to be careful about that. I am not saying at all that the Kaiju Preservation Society book was good or in any way representative of what we would like to see in sci-fi fantasy. And I obviously have reservations about the author as a person, but I think that it's important for us to first talk about the reasons that somebody might reach for that book, and to help people, readers who are interested in the genre or the blurb or the quips or whatever, to help them to make a step towards an indie alternative, especially if they are coming from a place of I like the idea, but the execution, ouch. I hold some of those politics, or I have qualms about how to navigate preserving, so that's where I'm coming from here. And you guys are all welcome in the chat to give me your opinions about the book, but that's the direction I'm taking this. Hi to everybody in the chat: Timo, Michael, John Douglas, TJ, Sam Goyer. All right, so I'm gonna do it like this. My indie news is the Big Based book sale. It goes through tomorrow. The link in the description is to my webpage, where I talk about the books that we have reviewed on Periapsis Press that are included in this sale. If you want to just browse the sale, just click on the image and it should take you straight to the link. Yep, through tomorrow. So really good stuff there. I highly encourage you guys to just collect a whole bunch. I mean, when else are you going to be able to get so many books for so cheap? I will be reviewing this week Dan the Destructor by Rob Rhimes. It's a portal fantasy, which is slightly different from isekai, shares a lot of stuff, but comes more out of a Western tradition. Cool warriors, heroic adventure, and gory action. Really great stuff. My top three would be the sword and sorcery sort of future, but with like other stuff, aliens and multiple levels of hell, and it's just taken to 11. So I liked the setting. It's a pulpy ride. So it's a fast read. The character is moving fast through each scene as well. It's not a sit down and describe this setting that we're going to sit in for a while. The character is moving, which makes it a really nice like summer read, as you sit down and you get somewhere, you do something. And then the third thing is just the cool things, cool characters, cool stuff. It's a great summer read for sure. So I encourage you guys to pick this up. And with that, I'm going to remind you guys that we have a book discussion live stream coming up. That would be not this Thursday, but next Thursday, July 6th. And it will be on the Drink with Crazy's channel. He's the one who suggested this book. So it'll be myself, Royce, John Douglas, who's in the chat, and TJ, who's in the chat. And we're each suggesting a either short novel or a novella. And then we're reading it, and then we're having a discussion on that person's channel. So it's sort of a way to encourage everybody to try some indies, and also kind of cross promote the people who are doing reviews, and where you can find people who are talking about Iron Age and indies and where to get the good stuff, right? So I hope you'll join us for that. Sam Goyer says, love Barbarians of the Storm. That's the series. Nothing but cool, fast-paced action. Never gets boring. And hi to Eric Wag. TJ. All right. So I sat down and looked at this book. I looked at some of the clips, both that were being shared on Twitter and also that are featured on the Amazon page. And I also looked at reviews. I have not read this book myself yet. Take that with a grain of salt. But here are some of the things, some of the aspects that I thought that a reader might appreciate about this book. Big monsters, or kaiju specifically. First Contact is one of the genres that it is ranking in the Amazon. So I was like, all right, I'll include that. Parallel Earth, or they almost go to another dimension, is what I understand. So, but it's still Earth-like. Pop culture references, witty dialogue, and lighthearted fun. So right away, I'm going to say that Collateral Damage by Adam Furman is one of my favorites. This one is specifically includes kaiju. It is battling kaiju, of course. And the main character is a civilian figure who is having this adventure. Adventure is too lighthearted a word for it. He's going to save his son underfoot of this kaiju mech battle. So if you are looking for action-packed and you're specifically reaching for a giant monster, this one is a definite recommend. I picked Redcaps Rising because it has that irreverent jokes and lighthearted humor and sort of pop culture-y references. So I feel like the tone is quite similar to this. Yeah, madcap. That's what I called it, madcap fun. And then in a similar vein, witty dialogue, kind of clever, The Brand of the Warlock. So those two are tone recommendations. If you like the tone, I would reach for these. Heroes Metal by TJ Marquis, who is in the chat. This one, there are giant monsters. So that's why I grabbed this one. Also, it's just fun. Good pulpy fun. I would say it doesn't have the same sort of witty, irreverent pop culture tone. It's more serious, more pulpy, but giant monsters. I suggested Bloodbane, also by TJ Marquis, for the first contact aspect of it, but also sort of the ordinary person in the Kaiju Preservation Society. The main character is someone who is like a delivery driver, right? Someone who's going about an ordinary job. And in Bloodbane, the main character is a lumberjack, right? So just kind of that real person feel, right? This one is more lit RPG. Oh, great. Now it's going straight out of my head. But like, there's also that alternate dimension aspect to it. It's not isekai or portal fantasy. It's still our world, but there's a invading dimension, if that makes sense. I picked Dawn of the Broken Sword again because of monsters, although the monsters are not ginormous. If you like monsters, all of these people are fighting monsters. They're not caring for them or preserving them or whatever. And I just haven't read anything like that. So if you're looking for sort of How to Train Your Dragon preserving kaiju type aspects, I don't have anything like that yet. I reached for Governess of Green Mirror because it has that parallel Earth, cool, more of a gothic romance, gothic fiction, like not gothic romance because the traditional romance aspect isn't there, but it's not quite gothic. It's got elements from both. It's gothic, but it has that parallel Earth thing going on, more Arthurian legend. So that's why I reached for this one. So that concludes my here's stuff that I think you might like if you liked John Scalzi's so I want to pivot now and start talking a little bit more about why I think it's important to take a step back and maybe not jump in on the Twitter like, this is a bad book. Why did it win an award? Type of rhetoric. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad that they did or guilty. I mean, you guys are all welcome to run your social media however you like. I just want to make sure that people are aware of some of the problems, like the potential problems. And when I say problems, I mean like PR problems, right? That go along with this kind of tone and rhetoric online. Oops. So this is the original tweet, and I just blew up the two images. I definitely saying something did a thing is flippant. It's not my thing, if that makes sense. So I think it's lazy writing. And referencing Pitch Perfect is also a choice. So those two are not necessarily I guess I'm examples of like horrible writing. They're examples of choices that the author made, and we can agree or disagree with whether or not those are wise choices, but as I think you'll see, they appeal to different people. So here are the pitfalls, just straight up, what I think we should be careful about. Criticizing specifically, I'm not saying criticizing at all, but specifically criticizing prose. And the first is you can pull awkward passages out of any book. And a lot of indies don't have editors, or editors will miss stuff. Editors will choose to say, like, identify a passage and then say, it's up to you, you're the author. And the author will say, well, I like it, so I'll leave it. Indies have a lot more control. And if any one of the books that I've reviewed was put under a microscope by people, they could pull passages like this that were awkward or had poor writing. And even if it is as obvious to me as these particular passages that the author was doing something intentional, people can still criticize it. So I think picking it apart is I don't think it's fair. We could look at a whole book and say, like, I don't like this, or X, Y, and Z about this book. But I think picking apart prose on social media it's not productive. It's not helpful to anybody. The second pitfall is people voted for this. Readers voted for this book. That's how it won the award. It's a popularity contest. And we can all say, well, that just means that this book had a lot of visibility. Yeah, but people read it and people voted for it. That means people read it and liked it. And the reason that this is a pitfall is that readers who liked it see us criticizing it and are ostracized. They get that feeling that we get about John Scalzi, and their response is, well, I don't like that person, so I'm not going to pick up their book. And their whole movement is lit snobs and fun police. And I think TJ says pitfall 4, don't be a lit police fun snob. Sorry guys, I haven't been watching too carefully because I've been thinking about what I'm saying. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll go back and look at your guys' comments. The first person that I saw pushing back on the criticism was at Violence Obscene. Not one of our guys. And when I say our guys, I mean he's not... he is abrasive and thinks that conservatives are racists and specifically conservative authors who are responding this way are bad people, racists, Nazis, that kind of stuff, which he said. And I believe I have that tweet, so I feel confident saying that. That being said, I think that his tweet and the responses to it really shed light on how readers are perceiving the conversation. Shitting on fun reading. Can books just not be fun? And you can have fun with reading. Not every sentence in a conversational first-person narrative needs to knock us out with tiered poetic stylings. So some of the stuff that's in response to this. He calls us lit snobs. This person is, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a drink of this. I'm going to put it down and stop gesturing before I spill all over my equipment. There. When David is not here, I do not have a chance to take a drink. The surprise from Shruti Skies, who is taken aback that people are criticizing these two examples of prose where the intention is to be lighthearted and flippant, and those are attempts at fun. Whether or not they're successful for you as a reader, that's what the intent of those passages is being perceived as by these readers. Dan Wise, Gamgee of the Shire. I believe sci-fi fantasy writing in this style will ultimately do more to hook new readers into the genre than, say, Dune, for instance. It's flippant, it's fun, it's successful. I disagree with his point, because I think that this kind of writing is writing to market, a market that already exists. But I think that he's right about the tone and the style and the feel of it. Beth Tabler, this was a super fun book. She read it. Just straight up popcorn fun. Why the hate? Oh, goody. The people who know the quote unquote right way to have fun are once again back to set us straight. Are we not allowed to have fun now? And then the conversation does also move into group bashing, right? Conservative entitled, right-wing chuds, and racist space con shit. So, and he's screenshotted someone else retweeting, specifically mentioning a couple of people. I think that readers in general, especially sort of trad pub readers, see a award winner like this and think that's a good book. I tweeted, I've never ever bought a book or read a book just because it had a award. Other stuff really matters to me more than that. But a popularity award is a lot closer to many, many 5-star reviews. Does that make sense? Lots of people liked this book. So a popularity award is a lot more trustworthy to an average reader than another kind of award or a great cover or a great blurb. So, oh, thanks, babe. When they see a lot of indie authors saying this prose sucks or criticizing in the retweets and replies to a tweet criticizing the fact that this book won an award, they don't see the logical leap is not, oh, there's better books out there. It's, oh, they're snobs. Oh, they are butthurt that they didn't win an award. That kind of stuff. I think that people like at Violence Obscene help those people who are being exposed to the indie scene for the first time through these criticisms to then keep their preconceived notions. Indies are bad. Right-wing artists can't produce good stuff. And conservatives are anti-fun and just want to tell you what to do. So I think that the message that us criticizing prose, saying this is a horrible book, it shouldn't have won an award, what it is communicating to the average reader is not the message that we hope we hope to communicate by our behavior in general. We believe that indie alternatives are better than award-winning trad pub options because they prioritize entertainment. We are not anti-fun, we are better fun. And because the tone of the book and the author in general do not hate the reader, are not trying to force the reader to accept a beyond political, but a worldview that the reader does not uphold, right? So I want to communicate here that if there's a better way to talk about our works in juxtaposition with an award winner by someone that we generally disagree with on everything, that we should implement that instead of sharing around an example of humor that we don't find as effective. I think that was the end of the sentence. The tactic that I have landed on to do that is, if you liked this, try this. Because, and the reason that I feel that is effective is because people like Beth, was it? Yeah. She read the book and she liked it. If I can identify what she liked about it, I can say, here are some other things that you would like. Instead of, well, you shouldn't have liked it. I'm not a fan of doing that, right? If I can find someone who's almost like Beth, right? I read the book and it was good. I just wish I wasn't put in the uncomfortable position of not holding the author's worldview. I can say, excellent. Here's something that is perfect for you, right? Here is a book that is going to be fun and is not going to undermine that fun with the prioritization of a political message. Okay. Yeah, that's all I had. I am going to take that out and I'm going to look over your guys' comments. I'm sorry, I have no ability to multitask. Okay, I have no idea what this is, but it's a fantastic comment. I ate mustard and marshmallows. I liked it. TJ says, that said, I'm creating my own award system. Congratulations, your book has been awarded and recognized as This Doesn't Suck 2023. It's a very select group of work. It would have to be, wouldn't it? Thank you. Thank you. It's brand new. I wish that the helmet started where the horn does so that you guys could see it. It says I am no man. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Got it off Etsy. Yeah, I bought a couple more graphic tees because I need more graphic tees in my life, but I wanted them to be cool. Timo says, you don't win the culture war by hating, you win by showing the other side you have cooler stuff. We do have cooler stuff. That's the fun part. John Douglas says, honestly, if one ever came my way, I'm seriously considering not accepting any. And I'm assuming he's talking about awards right now. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say if they throw an award your way, you should totally take it, right? I mean, I personally probably wouldn't go out of my way because I, as a reader, don't rely on that kind of thing. Yeah. Michael Caine says, it becomes a tribal response. It's a good point you're making. People react when you diss something they like, regardless of the merits of your criticism. Yeah. Sam Goyer says, I have a feeling RTD wouldn't be as forgiving to a conservative indie author. Absolutely not. Yeah. I think that's clear from his tone. Eric Wag, I try not to judge people for liking what they like, but man, that writing. DJ. I challenge him to a cake eating competition. I don't know. Evelyn Music, lit snobs sound like super cool snobs, not like lame snobs. having been a lit snob through college, that's what my degree is in, lit snobbery. Most people were pretty cool. But if you started quoting something, then if you like, especially if you did it to the wrong lit snob, then they probably would finish the quote and then keep going. And then it just gets awkward. You're like, okay, where do I go in this conversation? Oh, Michael Caine. I've been working on getting my first novel into audio, and I found a few awful passages that make me cringe. That's why they always say to like read your stuff out loud, because it sounds different than it does in your head. But his comment is going back to my point about you can find this kind of stuff in any book. John Douglas. Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's basically there are valid criticisms of those two passages for sure. I am not at all saying that there aren't things that could be said. I just think that the place to say them is in like a more comprehensive like addressing of it, I guess, on a blog or a website or something, and where you can be balanced and explain your position and and then give people an out, right? So that the reader doesn't feel attacked by the criticism of the prose, right? Like they're not at fault for enjoying it. That's I guess my point about it. Christopher Menkow says, in my new novel, Neighbors, a whole block of families are caring for a monster that could go nuclear at any time, plus Tom Sawyer. Michael Caine points out that it's a pretty nice cover. I think that it's a fine cover. It walks the line. Oh, goodness. So I can pull it up here. Oops. It walks the line between that sort of block text cover and something interesting. So it's a fine cover. I personally prefer to actually see the kaiju on the cover, but I'd say it's a pretty good cover. Okay, let me go back. Doug Wise says, are there readers we don't want to win over, or it's not worth it to win them over? This goes back to like gatekeeping your hobbies, right? I could have posted if you enjoyed that tweet that I did on this guy's thread and gotten a bunch of people who read the book. But because of his tone and his what he said about people in our group made me think that people who followed him might not be interested in our alternatives. So probably the answer to this question is yes. There are readers you don't want to win over. I think that TradPub readers, people who are in TradPub right now, especially as time goes on, are not necessarily people who are going to be interested in the Iron Age movement or reaching for indies by conservative authors in general, because the readers who are open to that kind of thing have already left. They have left because they've been pushed out ideologically, or because the type of humor isn't their thing. I think a lot of men have been pushed out of TradPub just because TradPub is not interested in catering to them. So I think the people that are that most need to be wooed are people who are hopping ship from TradPub right now and need some place to hop to so that they don't stop reading. And then people who are not being served by TradPub, but who are getting their sci-fi fantasy fix from TV or movies still, and they just need something to help them hop to reading, or back to reading. So I think that the readers in TradPub are an ever shrinking pool for us to draw from. And it becomes large. The percentage of people who would be interested in our kind of stuff, it becomes smaller and smaller. If that answers the question. Oh, Michael Caine says the cover I was talking about was one of your suggestions. Okay. Yeah. Collateral Damage has an awesome cover. One Governess of Greenmere. Also a cool cover. Yes, subtle. I like it. Yeah, like Sam Goyer says. Yep. Iron Age can cater more to video game and movie fans who feel like the mainstream aren't giving them what they want, especially as video games get more expensive. People may be willing to buy 1 or 2 video games instead of 3 or 4 or 5, and then like a book. It just depends on the person, right? If we can, like, if you think about the type of adventure that you can have in a video game, those are not really being written as novels, except by indies. So if we can cater to that market, I think there is a market there. It's just finding them. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Michael of St. Joseph, converting non-readers to readers is the largest potential market I don't hear anyone talking about. Yeah. And I think it's because people have relied on TradPub and their demographic numbers for so long that they've sort of forgotten that there's like this market of untapped like potential that TradPub is not servicing and is not interested in servicing. And I think that indies, and especially Iron Age, has a lot to offer people who used to read and don't anymore, male readers who are not interested in character focused feelings or like psychologizing, like and cringy romance stuff that seems to sink into its teeth into everything. People, I see stuff all the time from like Comicscape people where they share these covers with 2 male characters embracing on the front, and they just ream it. And the reason that exists is because comics is trying to move in on the TradPub market, right? And the TradPub market says women buy books and that women should buy comics and women like BL. It's weird and gross, but it's like a giant market. You see a lot of it in manga too. So it is at the expense of providing to male readers the adventure and the cathartic release, right, of tension that chopping an alien's head open, right? Like, so now how do you reach people who aren't reading? that's a whole nother question. And I think it just comes back to your generic marketing stuff, right? Make sure you've got a great cover. I think that someone who doesn't generally read a book isn't going to reach for the Kaiju Preservation Society. It just doesn't hook you. A book with a giant monster on the cover, a book with a girl on the cover, especially with a cool shadow, like those things are more intriguing to someone who doesn't read than a cover with giant words, right? Yeah. I definitely read less during high school, well, end of high school, college. It was a lit major, so I read a lot of other stuff. But there was definitely a time where I was not reading anything that wasn't assigned to me. It was sad. Timo mentions that he did a podcast that talked about writing specifically for a male audience. That's great. Evelyn Music, just getting back into reading myself. Fiction anyway, yeah. If teenage boys were told to read Robert E. Howard and Burroughs over Fitzgerald, we'd have a lot more lifelong readers. That is potentially true. There's definitely pros and cons to different types of reading, and I know what like I understand what literature programs are trying to communicate to high schoolers, but people in high school, especially boys, do not care about the history of literature. They don't want to read stuff that is relevant to the time period or whatever. Like, I really think it's more important to and this is on an educational level, right? This is not like in our day-to-day lives where I think reading serves a much different purpose. I think it's more important to inspire in kids a love of reading, not for reading's own sake or whatever, but so that they do read. Because reading level affects a lot of other things. And if you can provide kids with stuff that they will read, their vocabulary is going to grow, their ability to focus on something for a long period of time, to sit still, like those things increase. Their ability to empathize with other people increases. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of benefits to reading at a young age. And I think that teaching the grand history of literature in Britain and the United States and world lit, whatever that means, is really only useful and interesting to somebody who is already a great reader and enjoys reading and wants to pursue of their own volition that kind of research, whether that's in higher education or on their own time. I really think there needs to be more of an emphasis on providing kids with fun stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense. Evelyn Music says trailers covers always grab me. Michael Caine says the last few years I've struggled to bite the bullet and try books because I'm just so tired of being burned. Absolutely. I just tweeted about this the other day. I was watching some Korean drama. It's boring as all get out. I had already decided that this show probably wasn't for me, and then I think I was putting the baby to bed, and I was like, just throw something on. I'll give this one more shot, and that was the episode where one of the main characters waxed poetic on why she didn't read for a very long time, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is me. Right? She was saying how it was such a burden to take on other people's problems and lives, and she had her own life to live. She didn't have a lot of time, and that feeling of, if I read, I want it to be an escape from which I return refreshed and energized, and not like burdened and dragged down and like I was fighting there, like I fight here every day, right, to get through the day, to do the right thing, to wrestle with the things that tempt me, and to regret, and like I don't need to live that in somebody else's head. Like, I would like to just to let loose, to kill monsters, to explore, and you guys know I like a good theme too, but I would like it to be uplifting, and to be something more that isn't making me the bad guy for having the worldview that I do. That's not saying that the world that we live in is pointless or hopeless. I would like, when I read, when I sit down and read, I don't want to come out of that, right, frustrated or feeling like the things that I encountered in this imaginative space are not applicable, or are not true, right? Those underlying truths that exist, that we can sort of expose in the imaginative space. I want those to be to sort of to come over into like reality in such a way that bolsters courage and resolve and those kinds of things. All that to say, yes, I understand how you feel. Guilty Gearhead says it just started reading again recently. Only time I ever really read anything was for school. The Reverend in the Tomb, it was very good. Nice. Oh, nice. Evelyn Music says, I thought Wizard Stone was better than Reverend. I couldn't get through Reverend and the Tomb. I will have to try Wizard Stone. Sorry. It's Evelyn Music. I apologize. Michael of St. Joseph, don't rely on the school system, lost cause. even if you homeschool, you're going to be relying on a curriculum. That's why I talk about this. You could try and cobble something together on your own, of course, and more power to you. But generally, curriculums, especially literature curriculums, try to walk you through groups of literature. That's why like people are exposed to Poe usually during the American Lit. What do they call them? Unit. That's it. The American Lit unit. That's usually when people first read Poe. Nice. Fun is huge. I'm reading Dragonlance to my son at night. Nice, Eric. Guilty Gearhead. Provide kids with fun stuff. Michael St. Joseph asks, what is the result of a story not serving a higher purpose? It serves a higher purpose no matter what you do. That would be my response to that. So I know not everybody believes in like the monomyth, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. I believe in the monomyth, so right, like everything would be working towards the glory of the Creator God. What I'm going to talk about here is thematic elements. If you tell a story, there are thematic elements in it, and a good author can read over his work, review it, say, okay, I see these threads and I'm going to pull them out in revision. Or an equally fine way to do it is to just not. They will be there regardless, if that makes sense. So like Dan the Destructor, which a lot of people are reading right now, there's nothing that you would say, here is like the greater story, right? Because it's very pulpy, very fast. There's not a lot of reflection on the character's part or thinking about things, but there's still thematic elements. One of the thematic elements, particularly with its pairing with the short story that comes after it in the same book, is the idea of magically acquiring physical strength as well as fighting prowess. Both characters in those two stories acquire enhanced bodies and the ability to fight. They don't have to practice or do any of that stuff. On the pulp side, that's great. We don't have to, go through it with them. They don't have to time out. We have to stop here and practice, right? We can just keep forging ahead, and the main character can be more active in this world where punching stuff like actually matters, right? But we could talk about, okay, those two examples. What is Rob Rhymes saying through the story about, your responsibility to take care of your body, or like the benefits of, like there's say a lack of statement about diligence or about performing a like a day-to-day like sort of like diligence, but like working towards something. So like you can identify that kind of stuff. The reoccurrence of the dream comment, like, why does this matter? And like, if it is a dream, how does that affect the point of the story? And you can always take like a literary criticism angle for like the treatment of women, or the way that the characters interact with the society as a whole. An interesting one, which I think we would have to rely on later books in the series to sort of develop, is the idea that this world that Dan is portaled into is one where evil is bald-faced and good men fight it physically. And that is somehow better than the world he came from. The option of returning is mentioned, and the idea that maybe he wouldn't go back is also mentioned. And then like some of the closing comments at the end of the story indicate that this adventure that has taken place is kind of a regular occurrence, right? Evil exists and good men stand up and they fight it. And it's not a like a place where you would then have years and years of peace, right? But a place where like years and years of peace where like things fester, evil festers like behind the scenes in politics or something like that. Like it's all very straightforward. And then you could talk about like, okay, what are the thematic implications of juxtaposing the world Dan came with this world, with those two, with that very, very specific difference. Does that answer the question? There's always going to be a theme, whether or not you try, and that so I guess I'm trying to bring it back to like the idea of like that higher purpose, which he mentioned specifically. I think that I want stories that are going to be more positive in their treatment of the things that I care about, if that makes sense. I don't want nihilism or anti-family or I don't want my values. I don't want to come out of a story with my values being treated like they are not important or actively wrong. That would be the purpose. And when I say higher purpose, I would say the over the story purpose, like, right, like fly over your head if you're not careful, right? That kind of stuff. Not necessarily like higher, better, nobler, although I would like them to also be better and nobler, if that makes sense. Yeah, Michael Caine says books need the consolation that Tolkien talks about on fairy stories. It can be dark, but it has to turn back around to things that are true. Yes. Otherwise, it's just lies. Timo says, I'm just tired of characters in fantasy worlds having the same opinions on everything as your average American liberal from 2023. Yeah. Yep. It's especially bothersome to me when, like, Game of Thrones style, right? Like you have a world where deities exist and the smart people in the room are atheists. Like that doesn't make any sense in the world that you've built. Like you can't and it's not just George R. R. Martin, it's lots of people, right? Like they can't put themselves in the shoes of somebody who has genuine faith in anything, because that person would have to be in their minds, right, someone who was gullible and weak and leaning on a crutch. Like they can't understand how someone could believe something wholeheartedly and not be a bad person or compensating for something or struggling and needing something to rely. Like it bothers me. It bothers me. The American Lit unit sounds dope. Actually, it's depressing. It's extremely depressing. Poe wrote some cool stuff, but a lot of the American Lit unit is authors going through dark stages. It's kind of a bummer. I wish that I had more Poe and maybe less and yeah, like less of authors' backgrounds living depressing in like cabins alone in the woods. I am so far behind you guys. Like you guys keep correcting me in like what you were actually talking about. I apologize. Eric Wag says, I'd just say that the stories that lasted thousands of years have a lot of similar threads. These things resonate with the human soul. I agree. Emily Music, have a good night. Oh boy. Yikes. I thought that John's take was good on the Scalzi post. Basically saying, right, like you like there's no justification for treating indies like like they're bad, right? I'm mangling it. I'm gonna look it up. Likes. I've been busy today. Okay. I never want to hear the notion that indie authors put out substandard quality work when this shit is winning awards. Indie authors, you're killing it and you're putting the professionals to shame. Keep it up. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Good grief. I've been talking with the book cover up. TJ says, this is about American Lit. You're more creative when you're depressed, angry, and going through trauma. Yes. Yeah. Actually, just watched on Netflix, The Pale Blue Eye. That was fantastic. I was very pleased. Very pleased. And maybe David and I will talk about it sometime. So one of the characters in it is Poe, played by Harry Potter's cousin, that kid. But he's not fat. He's skinny. He looks like Poe. And I really liked how the show portrayed him, because you got the impression that he wasn't just like this depressed kid, right? Like he was somebody who felt things like very intensely and had a lot of like had a rough life, but was kind of like a normal person, right? So yeah, I would encourage you guys to check it out. It's got occult elements. It's like it takes place when Poe was alive, right? So that time period, but like a detective sort of story with occult elements. Yeah, definitely recommend. I have not seen this. Where did you watch it? Huh. Hulu. Okay. I'll have to check that out. Well, thank you guys so much for putting up with me and my reading your tweets 3 or 4 minutes after they occurred, and like my face tiny in the corner the whole time I was talking instead of full screen. I hope that this was fun and entertaining and that it was a useful discussion. And just I want to be in my own indie promotion. I want to be someone who is not telling people how to have fun or that they shouldn't have fun when they are, but is helping people to recognize why they liked something and help them to find examples of stuff that is indie that satisfies that same desire in a way that is supporting someone who is not trad pub right, and who cares about entertaining them and doesn't hate them as a person. So I just hope that I was able to communicate that well with you guys, to you guys. We need David. Yeah, I tend to ramble a bit. Next week, I am intending to do my big indie unboxing. Again, I got about $100 worth of indie books that I've reviewed on my channel, or on my website rather. And so I'm just going to be opening those, talking a little bit about each one. It'll probably be a pretty short stream, and then encouraging you guys to check out what you think looks interesting. I think that is everything. Again, live stream next Thursday, not this Thursday, July 6th. So I hope you guys will show up for that. Even if you didn't read the book, it should still be fun. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna cut myself off now. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of you guys. Yeah. If you have examples of books that you think cover the stuff that I was talking about earlier, the sort of elements that I think that people are interested in when they reach for the Kaiju Preservation Society, feel free to comment and let other people know. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.